Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the Kaur Show. I'm Ranjeet Kaur from the UK, and here with me is my co-host, Gurinder Kaur from Melbourne. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Benji, how are you?
Good, thanks, Benji. Hope you're doing well as well.
Yes, I'm good, thank you. I can hear myself twice. So today's topic is really exciting. It's about traditional Sikh music. And with this topic, I feel it's so important as string instruments have been undervalued, so I feel. And our Guru Sahibs themselves created numerous musical instruments, including the Dilruba and the Sarangi. And so today we will be discussing how these instruments had almost become extinct. Also, this is a fantastic way to get people in touch with their spiritual growth and development through Kirtan. So we have our guest today with us as well, who will be talking about this further. Benji, what's your understanding about the string instruments, or how do you feel about these?
Yes, definitely. I think music is something which resonates with every community. And with Sikh tradition, we have seen that we play so many different kind of instruments. And every Sikh guru has actually used a different kind of instrument during their lifetime to connect with music and kirtan. So really excited to learn about these different kinds of instruments and how they, how they are like connected with Sikhi. And also another thing I think we will be talking today is about mental health connection with these musical instruments. So it's going to be really fantastic talk. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Our guest today is Dr. Harjinder Singh Lallie from Gurmat Sangeet organisation in the UK. So let's welcome our guest to the show. Got loads to ask him. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. He's on mute.
How are you both? You okay?
Yes, very well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, very good. Yes, very excited to be on your show. Yes, we've been talking about it for a while, and I'm really glad to finally be on there now.
Yes, finally. Yeah. So just a little snippet. I've known Bhai Sahib Harjinder Singh since university, so it's a long time ago, and he was my lecturer there in computer networks, and I can tell you he was a very strict lecturer.
Wow. Bhai Sahib doesn't look like that.
Oh gosh, apparently I'm quite embarrassed that when I met Ranjeet Kaur Rani, as I call after a very long time, apparently the first thing I asked her was, what was your grade? I didn't even say hello, so I'm really embarrassed.
No, I wasn't a Gursikh when I was at university, and so I didn't know about Gursikhi at all. So when I did meet him at a camp, I went up to him, I recognize you as my lecturer. And he said, oh, what grade did you get? And I thought, I got a first class. And he's like, that's okay then. I was like, oh, okay. So
yeah.
So it's great to have
people. Yeah.
It's fine, but that's it's great to have a relationship this way as well, Hannah. So Bhai Sahib, can you please tell us and the audience a little about yourself and the Gurmat Sangeet organisation too, please?
Acha ji. So I started to learn Kirtan when I was 6 years old, and at the time I learned from my mom. She knew a few shabds. She used to do Kirtan with the Bibiyan da Jatha. So she's taught me a few shabds. And then what happened was at about a year later, she took me to Smethwick High Street in Birmingham, and a dear old man, a wonderful man, Professor Sangeet Singh, he agreed to teach me. So I was 7 years old at the time, and what we used to do, my mum used to take me to the Gurdwara every morning. I think it was about 4 o'clock. And Bhai Sabji used to teach me a shabd, and got to a point where he got me to do Kirtan on stage. I think I was about still 7 years old then. And that went on for 3 years. I mean, he was a wonderful man. And sadly, he passed away just before lockdown here in the UK. Then what happened was I met, there's a Gurdwara nearby where I live, Nanaksar, where I learned Tabla, I learned Santhya, I learned more Kirtan, and it was all on the Vajja. And so I was very happy with all that. I didn't know anything about our kind of historical musical traditions. I carried on in my, happily doing Kirtan. It's only in 1997, two things happened. Firstly, I heard a tape by a raggi called by Baljeet Singh Namdari and his brother Gurmeet Singh. And I think it must have been within days of that I heard the Namdaris do Kirtan. And I saw them live, and when they did Kirtan, there were around, no exaggeration, there were around 14 of them. They had three jodis. Jodis are the really big, big double A, the really big, you put atta on this, really big, very bassy. They had about 6 dilrabas. There was a tarshanite. There was even a flute, and I cannot describe the emotions that kind of tore through my body at the time. I decided I have to learn this. I have to find a teacher who will teach me this saj, teach me these instruments. And it took me quite a while. It took me a few months. Every teacher I spoke to said, well, I can't, I don't know how to play it, but I can try and teach you. And I thought, no, I have to go to someone who's a professional, who plays this. And that's when I met Ustad Harjinder Singh, who was based in, and still is based in Southall. At the time, I went every week to see my Ustad, my Guru. And I don't know how long I did that for, maybe 2-3 years. I went to see Ustadji, and the saj that I learned from them originally was the Dilraba. But very soon they asked me to start learning the sarangi, and that's what I learned from them. So that, in a very compact kind of nutshell, is the history of how I got to where I am. As soon as I started learning Danti Saj, I had 3 students say to me, because I was already teaching Kirtan on the Vajja, but they said, can you teach us Dilraba? And I suppose it started from there. Me, my brother Narendrajit, he started to teach tabla, I started to teach Danti Saj, and then the academy just grew. And it's no exaggeration, but there might have been around 200 students who I've taught over the last 20 years. Some of them are still learning from, 20 years back. They're still learning from me with the Guru's Kirpa. So that is a very, 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 very quick abstract of who the Gurmat Sangeet is and my history with Danti Saj.
That's a very interesting one, and very fascinating as well. And so I might ask over there, like, so with the new generation and with the kids today, and is there anything like a prerequisite about learning or selecting any particular musical instrument from the traditional ones, and see like which one should be starting with? How do someone really decide on that? And yeah, is it difficult, like even before someone get into Tanti Saj, some people think that, okay, first you need to learn Vajja, and only then you can, move on to Tanti Saj. So how does one, go about that?
Okay, so my view is as follows. It isn't necessary to learn Vajja first. In fact, sometimes what we end up doing is undoing some of the habits that people develop when they learn Vajja first. It's not a problem, but it really does not matter to us whether you have learned Vajja or not. It is not a prerequisite. What we do, however, is we ask students to make a fundamental decision. And that decision is whether they want to play a fretted instrument or a non-fretted instrument. Let me give you an example. Here I have a sarangi. You can see this sarangi, it has no frets. Yeah, there are no frets down the side. You play it with your nail. Yeah, you play it with your nail. There are no frets. So with this saj, you need what we call surgyan. What that means is that you need to be able to listen to what you're playing and recognize that I'm playing the right pitch. If you don't have surgyan, it comes over time. It just takes a bit longer. And my personal preference, and this is just personal preference, is that, my daughter, she's 9 years old. She's been learning the sarangi since she was 6. So I decided, look, start on a sarangi straight away. Now I'm going to show you a fretted instrument. This is a taus. I'll play it in a bit when we get to that part of the show. And what I want you to notice is, if I just turn it around a bit, is that there are frets. You can see how I've got my finger there. Let me move it a bit closer to the camera if I can. You see how I've got my finger there? Yeah. So with this instrument, every pitch that you play, as long as you are hitting the fret correctly, it will be in key. That is a fundamental decision that you have to make. Do I want to play a fretted instrument? Do I want to play an unfretted instrument? And the way to make that decision is to listen to Kirtan, listen to the Sarangi, listen to the Dilruba, listen to the instruments, and decide, look, what's it that really attracts me most? What do I like the most? Now, sometimes what students do is they start on the Dilruba, which is a fretted instrument, and then they move to the Sarangi later on. So in terms of prerequisites, the answer is no, you don't have to have learnt the Vajra. In terms of which instrument to choose, that has to be your personal choice. Sometimes students come and they say, look, I have no idea which instrument I want to learn. So the go-to option is the Dilruba. We say, okay, start with the Dilruba then, because they're in easy supply, easy to learn, very easy to carry. Let's start with that. There is one more thing I will say, and that is about age. Now, what I normally suggest is that when we take students on, we normally don't take them on to the Tanti Saj, i.e. the stringed instrument class, until they're about 7 years old. If a parent comes to us with a 5-year-old maybe and says, look, we want the child to learn a Saj, what we normally do is we say, learn the tabla first. I think that's a brilliant way to start, because they develop rhythm, they develop tal knowledge. They, sometimes they stay with the tabla, but more often than not, by the time they're about 7 or 8, they move on to the Dilruba, and that really prepares them very, very well.
That's great. Thank you so much. So regarding this about starting, I remember I approached last year. I approached you and I said, "Oh, mine's 6 at the moment and just turned 5," and you said it's. I got in touch with the other organisation as well, like in the local ones, and they had said it's best to start with tabla and maybe the Vajra, but when she gets to 7, then start. But that's when lockdowns come. But we're definitely going to start as soon as we're back up running again. But I think this time in learning the Vajra and tabla has been amazing for the children, because they've learnt the sargam.
Yeah.
So they have enjoyed that. But on the side, they've always had like a little mini guitar. I'm not sure why, but they've always loved to have the guitar. I think it's the whole string instrument, because I wouldn't put a dilruba in the house for them to, play around with. Not really, because they've got a sadgar and whatnot. So we definitely are going to try the instruments as soon as we are able to. So I think from a mother's point of view, I actually wouldn't know which one she would choose. So would it be like an option where she could try both and then know? Because at that age, even if they listen to Geethan, can they really tune in?
Yeah. So the thing is, what we do is in our academy, we give taster sessions. So this is the problem is, we're based in the UK. We've got classes in Birmingham. We've got classes in Coventry. So it's possible to do that. And what we do is we bring the Dilruba, Taus, Israj, and they can try the instruments. They can get a feel for them. That helps them to decide. But like I say, the go-to option always is, if you're not sure, then start on the Dilruba, right? The thing is, it's difficult to show in this room, but the Taus is a very big instrument, right? I'll show it you in a bit when I play something. Very big instrument. And for a 9-year-old, there's no way they're going to be able to carry that. The Dilruba, Masi, they can carry that. So there's an element of practicality as well. The Taus is very expensive. They're typically about £650, £700. Dilruba you can get for £350, so almost double the cost. So that is also an element that comes into this. But yeah, like I say, it's always good if somehow you can get exposed to the instrument, i.e. you can actually try it somewhere. I think that would really help.
Yeah, so with all these string instruments, are they all equal? Where does the guitar come in this, or is that not part of the traditional Sikh music at all?
Okay, so that's a controversial topic, right? So my view is as follows. right? And some Gurmat Sangeet practitioners will disagree with me, and they'll be kind of holding crucifixes. My view is all kirtan is good, okay? Chahe ਪਿੰਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਬੀਬੀਆਂ they used to sit around the chulla and they used to sing a shabad, right? No saj, just sit there singing. It's absolutely beautiful. It's the Guru's word. It's shabad. ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ 3 ਸੁਰਾਂ ਆਉਂਦੀਆਂ, even if they only know 3 pitches, 3 swars, it's kirtan. And we cannot, the nindya nahi appa karni. Right, and when someone does kirtan on the guitar, in my view, it is still kirtan, and we should respect that, right? And we should, and it sounds. I have to say, it sounds beautiful. I have to say, I listen to it; it just sounds absolutely beautiful. We've even fused it a bit sometimes, where my sister-in-law, she plays the guitar, so she's she plays does kirtan on the guitar, and I've sat with the sarangi, and it couldn't get more bipolar. On the one hand, you've got an instrument that's like 1500 years old, and in the same space we've got a saj that I don't know how old the guitar is, but it's a very modern instrument. It sounds absolutely beautiful and I love it. However, what we're trying to do as an academy is we're trying to promote instruments and kirtan as we believe it was performed at the time of the Guru. Right, and that doesn't mean that today's kirtan is wrong or the karnani chaida, right? Absolutely not, right? It's like saying, at the time of the Gurus, we used to travel on horses, so why on earth are people traveling in cars, right? Jamana badal daya, right? Instruments change, right? But we're just trying to bring exposure to that kirtan that was done at the time. But there is one thing we are very strict about is the rag, right? The rag that we sing in, we are very strict about that. Karke oh jara rag ya, almost every single shabd in the Guru Granth Sahib is written in a particular rag. So when the Guru Sahib, the Sorat de vich shabd likhde a, like even in the Dasam Granth, Prabh Juto ke Laj Hamari is written in Sorat. Why did the Guru do that, right? Ki lor sigi rag da naam likhan di. So we're very strict about that, and so that's one thing we don't compromise. But we don't teach guitar, we don't teach vajja. We are here to promote these very traditional instruments and try to promote the style of kirtan that was done in the Guru's time. So guitar, happy with it. It sounds beautiful. We don't teach it. We teach plucked instruments, sarod, for instance, or a rabab. We do teach that. That's a plucked instrument. It's not anywhere, nothing like a guitar. The only thing it's got in common is that it's also plucked.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I had actually a question that someone sent me this morning looking at the flyer. And the question, I've experienced that myself as well. With the new generation, I know a lot of new generation is actually now learning the string instruments, especially in the Western countries and even in India as well. And we see that even at Harjinder Sahib, Amritsar, now the kirtan is actually performed using the string instruments, which is really great. There is more awareness happening. But what we have seen that when the kirtanis are actually doing rag darbar or actually doing kirtan in ragas, the sangat is still not connecting to that sort of kirtan yet, as they do it to the I'll say non-rag kirtan or just the normal style of doing. They're connecting more. What is the reason, and how we can actually connect, or sangat more with this traditional style of kirtan?
I think that is a really good question, and I can't say I've thought I kind of sat and thought about it much. But one of the things I suppose is that lok kirtan, very popular shabds on catchy tunes are easy for people to connect with because they can sing them. And more often than not, they've probably heard that tune in a Bollywood film, so they already know the tune. And it's easy to connect because we don't have to think, we don't have to apply any thought, we don't have to apply any intellectual kind of stimulus behind it.
Yeah.
Whereas with rag kirtan, what you get is, I'll give you an example. So with a typical shabd that you'll hear in the Gurdwara, it will have 2 parts. maybe 3 parts to it. Yeah, it will have what we call the asthai, and the asthai might be split into 2 parts. And then it will have what we call the antara, which will be split into 2 parts. So 2 or 3 parts. So it's quite simple. Yeah. With some of the kirtan that we do, that same, so the shabd is going to split into 6, sometimes 8, sometimes even 10 different parts. And now you can see it's getting a bit complicated. There's different tunes, that you have to learn. That's one of the problems that people have kind of understanding and connecting to. The other problem they have is that a lot of the kirtan that we hear in the Gurdwara is played on very simple rhythmic cycles. So, but what we mean by that is a tal. And the 3 most common tals are Kerva, Dadra, and Tintal. So, I haven't done any research, just anecdotal kind of, suggestion that about 95% of all the kirtan you will hear in a Gurdwara is going to be based on those 3 rhythmic cycles, which are easy to follow, and our brain naturally just connects to them. When you start learning the kirtan that we do, gosh, suddenly there are around 15, 20 different rhythmic cycles. So Kerva's 8 beats, Dadra 6 beats, da din da din da din da din dun 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 dun. It's very simple. And then you've got suddenly the Raggis doing kirtan in a tal which is 21 beats, and it's become a bit more difficult to process. Yeah. Finally, last but not least, we have this added dimension that the Raggi is now singing in a rag, a kind of a sur structure, a pitch structure that we're not familiar with, right? So a lot of kirtan, for example, that you hear in a Gurdwara will be based around 3 or 4 different rags. So a rag, for example, sa re ga ma pa da ni sa sa ni da ba ma ga re sa. Those are just the 8 surs. And a typical rag, might use those 8 surs. Sa ga re ga pa ma ga re ga pa ni da ni sa da pa re ga ma pa ma ga re sa. So that is actually a pretty simple rag that we can all understand. But when the raggi then starts singing slightly more complex rags, right? Sa ga ma pa ni sa ni pa ga ma ga sa. Suddenly the surah are a bit different. It's a bit awkward. That adds to the layer of complexity. Now, for us to connect a bit better with this, it's only when you start listening and understanding and learning and coming a bit closer and closer to this music that you start appreciating it, right? Now, the problem we have, I think a lot of us as audiences, I don't like using the term audience, but we are an audience. We're sitting there listening to the Guru's word, we're the audience, we're the recipient, is that we don't often process what's going on. Right, and this is a problem with our Qawm in some respects. Ke jad koi katha karta hai, right? We don't actually listen to what he's saying, right? The words come, oh, it sounds good. Oh, that katha sounds wonderful. It's a good old by Lallo katha again. I love that katha. I'm listening to it, right? But we don't actually really thinking about what is the message here and what should I be taking home. I think we have a bit of a problem as a community to try and connect at that level. It's the same with music. Now when you listen to music, right, and we go to the Gurdwara, Raggis doing kirtan, brilliant, beautiful shabd, right? We're not sitting there thinking, why is this sad? Why is it that I it's a beautiful shabd, I love it, but what is making it a sad shabd? Is it the keys? Is it the words? Is it the speed? Is it the tal? We don't do that, do we? And what we try to do in our academy is we try to teach students to understand that. And when you start understanding that, suddenly, oh, wow, my God, there's a whole new world that opens up when you're sitting in that darbar and listening to the shabd, even if it is lok kirtan, popular kirtan, you suddenly start analyzing it, and it just adopts a completely new meaning.
Wow, that's amazing. Myself, I wanted to
Yeah.
ask on that note. So, can you like share with us an experience where people have benefited, like spiritually or mentally, from learning string instruments? So, you know how you're saying
Yeah.
about connection and connecting. Like, have you ever found someone that's not just sat there and cried,
Yeah.
but a bit more afterwards and realized, okay, where they were or what's happened, or
Yeah, I think this. I think we do all experience this. So we fundamentally, as human beings, we connect with certain types of music. So when we're sad, there's certain music that we almost, it's kind of like our go-to music, right? On our playlist. We're happy. We've got our go-to list. It's just those songs that we listen to. Going to the gym, need a bit of birras, right? And there's that really fast-paced music that we listen to, right? So we have, without realizing it, already our mental well-being is connected to music, but we just don't realize it, and we've never thought of it that way. We've never promoted it that way, and it's our fault as well as Kirtanis and as teachers to try and help people understand that music can help you. Now, there is actually a plethora of research. I was looking at this about 4 weeks ago for something I'm doing. Plethora of research in Western circles published in top journals, which shows that music does affect mental well-being. It can have a very positive effect on your mental well-being. It can help you recover from depression. It can help you recover in matters of trauma. And what we right? What we haven't done is try to say to ourselves, well, how can we get Kirtan to help people in our community that are suffering, that are struggling? And COVID was and still is, a very classic example. The amount of depression, the kind of the amount of anxiety and the kind of, it's almost like a pseudo trauma that people are suffering during lockdown, right? Yes, some people have got families around them, some people have got no one around them, and I've met people who have said that, look, if it wasn't for me listening to Kirtan, or if it wasn't for me listening to, watching the Sikh channel or the Akal channel or something like that on TV every day, I don't know how I would have got through this, right? So to answer your question, there is a fundamental link, and it's a scientific link. It's not just a saying, oh, Kirtan makes you feel better. No, there is actually, it's been proven in research, and I'm more than happy to direct your viewers to some of that research. Ota ho gaya hai na, in the Western Hemisphere, what we as a community haven't done and we must do is try to understand how Kirtan actually can help people. So if someone is anxious, they're depressed, and they're mentally, they're not in the right place, and we need to change their energy levels, what kind of Kirtan? How can we present it to them? How can we help them connect to Kirtan? Rather than just saying, "Oh, to Kirtan sunya kar, you'll be fine." That's not good enough, right? Is there any particular type? Can we prescribe Kirtan, right? Is there, like, there's these rags or there's these shabds, right? I think, why don't you listen to this, right? Let me just explain what this shabd means, right? Oh, brilliant. Now I understand what the shabd means. And it's done in a rag that connects with the words, and I can actually feel a lot better about things. Yeah, is Hajir, we haven't done that research, and we really do need to do that research, because I think the healing powers of Kirtan, we keep saying that it heals you, it heals you, it heals you, but we haven't scientifically done that analysis, and I really think we need to do that as a goal. We need to fund a PhD student, guys, to do that research. Get
That will be so
crowdfunding going.
fantastic.
Yeah, and
If
I
we
show
can
you.
really, yes,
It's a good time for me to demonstrate.
yes,
Okay, so let me
yeah,
demonstrate something to you, right?
sure, yes.
And we're going to do a little experiment. Okay, I know, Rani, it feels a bit like my classes at Derby, right? But you're not being assessed.
3 hours long in the evening.
I'm not assessing you this time, okay? So I'm just going to ask you guys to do something now, right? I'm going to play two rags, And all I want you to do is the following, right? I just want you to tell me, let me just get my microphone wire around. I don't know how this will work, but all I want you to tell me is the following. One of these is a sad rag, okay? It kind of brings brings out feelings of sadness, longing. And the other rag is it's more happy, it's more jolly. I'm going to just turn on my double R machine. Just bear with me 1 second. Let's get that right. These are all my props, my experimental materials that I need to get right. Don't know if you can hear that in the background, but there's a tanpura now sounding. So, sad rag, happy rag. I'm not going to tell you which way around we're doing it, but I just want you to tell me which is which, okay? Sorry, bear with me. Let me just get this. It's a bit tricky getting this wire in the right place. See if I can take it over there. That sounds like it'll work. Okay. Okay, that's rag number 1. Let me do a different rag now. Okay. Okay, so which is which?
Wow. Well, firstly, that was really nice. Thank you so much. I could be listening to this all day.
Yes. It was
Yeah,
so
really
soothing.
soothing. It looked so
So
different,
relaxing.
like
Yes.
this and this and this. I think the first one was the sad one, and I think the second one was more playful.
Okay, yep. So the first rag was a rag called Pero. It's a morning rag, and yes, it is. You know, there is an element of sadness. There are sadder rags, right? But it's you know it's sadder than the second one, which was Asa, which is a lot more joyful, and you know it's happier, right? So let me just put this to the side, and let me just now introduce something else to you right now. So we've got Rag Beron, okay, and we know it's a sad-ish rag. And then we've got a shabd by Bhagat Namdev. The shabd is Hasat Khelat Tere Dehure Aya Bhagat Karat Nama Pakar Uthaya. Let me just tell you the backstory, right? The backstory is as follows. And this is why I'm saying, you have the rag, and then on top of it, when you layer the shabd and you try and connect the mood, right? The mood of the shabd and the mood of the rag, now suddenly it adopts a completely different meaning. Right now, let me tell you about Namdev. So Namdev was a Shimba. He was a tailor, and he was what is referred to as a Shudra, very low caste. And at that time, in the time of Baba Namdev, Sudras, Chandals were not allowed to enter the mandir. You could stand at a distance, right? You could stand, 10 meters away. You could do darshan, you could see it like that, but you were not allowed to enter the mandir. If you entered the mandir, you'd be in trouble. So what Bhakta Namdev said was, he said, look, this isn't fair, right? We should be allowed to enter the mandir. But Sikh, we take these things for granted, right? No one is stopping you from going to the Gurdwara. Anyone can walk into the Gurdwara, any caste, any creed, any color, any varn, any jat, right? Una dina de vech, it wasn't like that, right? So Namdev challenged this. He said, this isn't right, and I'm going to challenge it. So he, one day, brave old soul, he decided to go into the mandir and do his puja. And what happened was he was beaten up. He was beaten. He was dragged out of the mandir, and God knows what happened to him, but he wrote about it, right? Hasat khelat tere dehure aya bhagat karat nama pakar uthaya. Very sad. He gives us, the really horrifying, kind of story of what happened to him. He was beaten up. Now we know the shabd, we understand the backstory. Now, when we play that to Rag Beron, which is the rag it's written in, it suddenly adopts a different meaning. Let me just I've got, there's a little shabd that I do in Rag Beron. Let me just play that to you. I won't get the sarge, I'll just play it to you. Bear with me 1 second. Now, when you listen to this, I just want you to remember that story, okay? Just slow this down a bit, okay? So listen to this and just try to remember what I've told you in terms of the story and connect to the rag, which is a sad, kind of rag, okay? And just see how it kind of makes you feel. Hasata khelat tere dehare aya. Hasata khelat tere dehare aya. Bhagat karat nama Bhagat karat nama pakar uthaya. Bhagat karat nama pakar uthaya. Hasat khelat tere dehore aya. So now,
Got goosebumps.
so now, now we know the backstory, and that's why I'm saying, you asked the question earlier on, how can we connect with this kind of kirtan a bit better? It's because we just have to develop our knowledge, right? Harjinder, we learn Santhya, right? We know, right, that, guys, we should learn Santhya. It's really fundamental. It's really important. Santhya sikhni chahiye, right? Same way with, we now understand Gatka sikhna chahiye. This is fundamental. It's part of our tradition. Kirtan is also part of our tradition, right? You cannot split, you can't take the Kirtan out of Sikhi, right? Every ceremony, every purba, kisane jamana, marna, vyah, shadi, whatever event it is, Kakav passes his exams, we hold a Kirtan, right? And that's why, as children, we should guide them towards this, to say, look, you do need to learn the theory of rag, to learn Kirtan, to learn vocal, just so that they can actually, that Guru Granth Sahib, the Bani, suddenly, oh my God, it adopts, it's like you've walked into a new country, everything's different now. Look at the lamppost, look at the landscape, look at the, the way this is, honest to God, it just is completely different, suddenly a whole new world out there.
That was amazing. I really,
Yes.
it's a totally different way of explaining Kirtan altogether than going to learn Vajan. You're told, Kirtan karo, Kirtan sikho. Like that's the typical line that a child would be.
Yeah.
I don't think I've explained to my children why they're learning these instruments. It's just, and now I think I would more like to say like, so how did you feel? Or, those type of questions. I think that's actually really important now. Learning why and the Shabbat, what it actually means, rather than just learn it Gant. Like
Yes.
actually I think that's actually a really good way of explaining it.
Yeah.
And one of the problems I think we have as a community is that we don't question. We're taught not, we actually are. I mean, it's a bit of a dichotomy, right? In that, Sada na hega Sikh, right? Learn, and you learn, and you both know, you go to university and you're taught to question. And the students who can question better and rationalize things better are the ones who, like you, get the first class degrees. But the ones who can't question, who just repeat verbatim, but jidda sikhaya udda dasi jana, right? They don't get, they still pass, they still get their, degree, but they don't get the distinction, right? As a qawm, we do need to question and we do need to ask. How did it? You're right. How did it make you feel? Why did it make you feel happy? I didn't think it was happy. Was it the words? Was it the pace? Was it the rag? The kind of the tune, right? And I think we need to do that much more than we currently do.
I think sometimes you can. So when I do the Shabbats on the Vajja, sometimes I don't try to do it on stage because I always get emotional when I'm singing. So I always think, oh, I can't do that on stage. It's going to look really silly if I start crying and trying to do a Shabbat. But I think internally I know I'm connected in some way, but there's no way of actually explaining it.
Yeah.
That's the hard part I find, like trying to explain why am I getting emotional? Why is this Bani making me get emotional? Why do sometimes you listen and you get, I think they call it Ganras, where you listen to Bani and then you can start getting emotional. It's like, but why? How does this happen? And it's that connection, vibration, but it's hard to explain.
It's not bad though. I mean, there's a pankti in the Guru Granth Sahib where they say, Jaise gunge ki mathiai, it's like someone who can't speak, but they eat a sweet and they can't describe how, it tastes. They just know it tastes good, which is good, right? It's brilliant, right? We walk into the Gurdwara, we hear the Bani and we feel good about it. That is absolutely brilliant. There's no problem with that. But what I'm saying is, Sikho, try to connect a bit deeper than that. That is almost face value. And the strength of Sikhi and the Bani is that even at face value, it makes us feel like that, right? Now, if you understood it further, how could it make you feel, right? How much deeper could it make you feel? You asked me a question earlier on about well-being, right? And, how, do you have examples? I mean, I can cite personal examples. I mean, there are times where for example, we've done Kirtan. And there was one darbar I remember vividly. It was Jere apne Nihang Singh in Birmingham. They did a Dasam Granth Akhand Path, and they said that sare pure Dasam Granth da Akhand Path karna hai. And on the day of the Bhog, we want just Dasam Granth Kirtan, So we sang maybe 8, 9 of us. We went with apne old the Tanti Saj, and we had 2 Jodiyan that day. My brother was playing the Jodi, and we had a student who was playing the Jodi. And we sang Prabhu Toke Laj Hamari. Very, very uplifting, very fast, very bassy kind of read. where the Jodi was just bang, bang. And, everyone, while we were doing Kirtan, you honestly sometimes get like goosebumps, the hairs on your back stand up and you're like, wow, this is just unbelievable. So we were feeling like that. All of us, everyone in the Jatha was saying, you know what, I don't know what it was, but that was just amazing. It felt really good. And then what happened was we got to the end of the Shabd, and when we finished, the Nihang Singh, they started doing jikare shuru kar dete. Bole so nihal, it was like mad. It was like, one after another. It didn't stop for a few moments, right? And, that just added to the whole occasion. And we knew that they feel the same way, right? And then when we went out, and quite a few people came to us and said that, that was so uplifting and so on and so forth. So we could see it's affected their emotions, right? It's impacted their emotions, right? And that's kind of a live example of how during the Kirtan, people can be uplifted. They can actually feel like that. As they're progressing through the Shabd, their emotions are being lifted, right? And my understanding, my interpretation of my role and the role of every single Kirtani in the world is that you are the Guru's spokesperson, right? When you sit on that stage, don't treat it like, oh, I just got to do a Shabd, right? Do a Shabd and go. You now have a responsibility. You are sitting there. You're speaking the Guru's word on his behalf, right? And when you start thinking of it like that, your whole attitude and approach to Kirtan changes, right? That's how I genuinely feel. I mean, people might disagree with me, but when I go on stage, and there is a bear. Bear means, like having the in the belly body, nirpo, nirver, hana. But bo means fear. Bear is a type of fear, but it's a very respectful type of fear. Like you have for your parents, it's a respect. Hana sanu darbiya, right? But it's respect. We're not in nani darde that they will abuse us. And with dariape, they're our parents, and son, we should respect them, and so on and so forth. So when I sit on that stage, menu pe hunda hana, that I'm in the Guru's presence. I have to represent his word, and I have to speak the Guru's word on the Guru's behalf. So, this is how I think we should be looking at Kirtan, interpreting Kirtan.
That's
Very well
amazing.
said. Yes. Just on that note, we talked about the Sikh string instruments, and the traditional Sikh music is definitely gaining more popularity these days now, given that there is more awareness even for social media or anything we can call it. How popular are the Sikh instruments with the non-Sikh community? Are they? Is there any community which feels interest in the Sikh traditional music as well, and the instruments, and they want to opt for it?
That is a good question. Sikh music, it's not very popular or well known outside of outside of our dharma, outside our pant. Sikh music is not very well known. People don't even know how intrinsically linked music is with our Qawm, but they should. This is our fault. We have not gone out there and let the world know, what music means to us, and how we have here a scripture, a religious scripture, which has fused within it a musical a musical thread fused all the way through our scripture, and how Sikh life revolves around music. We have not gone out there and popularized this. We've not gone out there at an academic level. So There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of papers that you can download right now. Go to scholar.google.co.uk or go to any kind of academic database and just type in Islamic music or Christian music, right? And you will see how many papers and how much research has been published. That does not happen with Sikh music. When you do the same with Sikh music, you will probably get maybe 30, 35 good articles, right? Papers that have been published. So even at an academic level, we haven't gone out there and told people about Sikh music. And forget academic level, just at a Bantuk level, we haven't gone out there and done that. A really good case study for us as a community, and it's one we should be really proud of, is Langar. Look at what we did with Langar. We have told the whole world now knows, the free kitchen is integral, it's in their genes. But they feed the hungry, right? They don't care that you're, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Jain, Rasta, Sikh, they will feed you, right? Their door is open, their langar, their kitchen is open. That's brilliant. Look what we did. We took langar out into the streets, right? And we're in papers, we're in the news, we're all over social media. Non-Sikhs now know about langar. We need to do the same with our music, I think. And that is one of the things that the Academy, it's one of the things that we do, is go out there and really promote Sikh music. But we can't do it on our own. People around the world need to kind of get involved in this.
That's amazing.
That was very eye-opening, yes.
Very eye-opening.
Yeah.
So, Baisa, where can audience get in touch with your services?
Achaji, so self-plug now, advertising. GSA.music is our Instagram page. Yeah, GSA, which stands for Gurmat Sangeet Academy. GSA.music is our Instagram page. And facebook.com/Gurmat Sangeet Academy, I think it is our Facebook page. And then just gurmatsangeet.org is our website. Yeah, so through those three kind of channels, you can reach us, and we do tour. So we're happy to come to Australia, right? When your Prime Minister lets people in, and when we're allowed to leave, and once COVID is over, we're happy to travel. Yeah. We've been to Norway many times. We've been to France, and we do travel and we do promote this. If you want to just speak to us directly, you want to speak to our teachers, you want to speak to me and just find out more than happy to engage with you. Yeah. And we can, if you don't know how to start learning and what first steps to take, then again, we're more than happy to guide you onto those first steps. We've been teaching a lot through Zoom recently, over COVID, obviously. Our classes carried on. We moved to Zoom, and around 6-7 classes all moved to Zoom. And so, there are things that we can explore, and, we can kind of help you through Zoom. We can kind of talk to you and kind of guide you.
That's great. I had so much more to ask as well in this session, but our session is nearly up now. Yeah. And I think it's really amazing how instruments can be used for like emotional energy of sound and music and for well-being and personal growth. There's so much behind it that you're right. We haven't actually put it out there of the benefits and how amazing it is. And Langar is a really good example actually, because it is out there and it is known, but our music should be just as similar. So is there any last few words you wanted to say, Faisal?
Well, thank you very much. I mean, what your show has done for me is it made me focus a bit more and start thinking about well-being and Kirtan. And it's something that I just took for granted all the time. I just thought, yeah, of course, when I do Kirtan, it makes me feel good. During lockdown, I wasn't allowed out of the house, and yes, my family was around me, but Kirtan helped me connect. But now your show made me think about that a lot more, almost on a kind of, one extreme to on a scientific level, look at the research into this. There's, oh gosh, wow, there's a lot of research into mental well-being and music. And it's kind of making me focus a lot more on what we can do with Kirtan to help people through trauma, through sadness. So this is what you guys have done for us. So we're really grateful for that. And I'm more than happy to come back and just explore this a lot more with you. Maybe do a lot more Kirtan next time and just talk about what I've done, explain. One show is not enough. So I'm kind of almost saying, please call me back, right? And one show is not enough. But next time, maybe, we start exploring the Kirtan, which we haven't done.
Yeah.
Let's pick a shab and then just explore that and help people understand, how that felt, what I was trying to do. Maybe we can do that another time. But thank you both very much. That's really, really useful.
Thank you, Faisalji. No, that was really, I think there's so much now coming in mind, and I've learned so much today. I feel like, okay, maybe, I don't know if I should at this stage of life should start a PhD in something or not. I don't think it's a good time for me now, but definitely I think for young generation, they should definitely rethink about this. We have so much khajana, so much history, so much, our own traditional music has so much to give to the community, the Gurbani. I think if anyone is considering of doing PhD and doing something, there are people doing all sort of studies. Plus we need people who can actually do something within our religion and traditional music as well. So
and I'd be quite happy.
People should be thinking about that.
I'd be quite happy to be a guide and a mentor. I mean, my own research is in a different subject, but I've got so much time for this, right? So if there's someone out there listening who wants to do a PhD, now's a good time because the whole world is thinking about mental well-being, right? You'd probably get funding from somewhere, right? There might be a university willing to fund you, right? And if you want to do that, then please get in touch. We are more than happy to give you our time and help you on that PhD journey, to give you case studies and all kinds of help.
Faisal just completed his PhD as well recently, so you're never too old to learn.
Yes.
Yes, and also with the when you want to, like nowadays, if you want to get your children to learn about any instrument, and you think, oh, all Sikh clave sanu ko lord nahi hai, like so when my daughter's learning the Vajja, I'm actually learning with her as well. And so when she learns the Dilruba or Sarangi, whichever one she chooses, I'm actually going to learn with her as well. And so it's going to be a journey for both of us, not just it's for Nyane, it's for everyone.
Brilliant. And in fact, I should have said earlier on that when your daughter comes, the teacher's going to say that you have to be in the room with her.
Oh, but I might as well learn.
Yeah,
might as well learn while I'm in the room with her.
Yeah, we insist, right? We insist because you're going to then maintain her practice afterwards. So it's important, you might as well just join the class and start learning as well. Look at that. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to it. Yeah. But we would really like to thank you, Harjinder Singh, for today and your time and your knowledge. Oh my gosh, I've learned so much, and I'm sure the Sangat's learned as well about traditional Sikh music. And if you're interested again in learning about string instrument, or if you've got any queries, then get in touch with gurmatsangeet.org. They're on Facebook as well and Instagram. And thank you again, and we will see you next week. If you've got any comments or specific topic that you would like us to cover, then please send us an email at hello@thekaurshow.com. And if you want to see any of our previous shows, please visit our website, thekaurshow.com. Thank you all. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.